Belgian, I'm thinking,
Uh,
and maybe 6 feet, Tommy, ain't so far down.
that's some customized Creed right there. You can't do any better than that. That
Appreciate
is
that.
nice.
That's exactly
That's
right.
really, really nice.
Has it stopped raining down there? We literally pulled 3 inches of rain yesterday.
Yeah, we had a ton of rain, and now it's a ton of. Are you getting wind? We're getting wind. It's like I saw an owl blown sideways outside my window this morning.
Not as of yet.
Oh, man.
Not as of yet.
It is really bad.
But I've been.
The chickens are up. But we,
Yes, they are.
What we're gonna do, I guess.
Tommy,
I mean,
I did not.
Yeah.
I did not like the first TnZ podcast. I loved it.
Good.
Doing it with you. I loved it.
Great. The music is so loud in my ear, I can hardly hear us talking. But we'll get out of that. We'll change that up a little bit.
It's
I
time
guess
to do this thing.
The plan today is to start out slow and to build. And by the end of this thing, you're going to be transformed into the Minotaur. I mean, you're going to be furious and kicking down the barn, right?
There's no transforming. I am the Minotaur.
You've always been.
No transforming.
Oh, there's the music. Okay. Now we have to straighten it up.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, we got to tighten it up here.
Yeah,
It's time to get started. More is expected in episode 2. Glad you're with us here for TnZ. Z, you're ready to go. I'm ready to go. We got a full lineup. What we're doing today, I mean, let's talk about some of the things that we're hitting on today. We are going to build to a fury of accusations, right, and stuff like that. No, not really.
Tommy, has anything gone on in the professional fishing industry the last couple weeks? Anything going on? Yes.
A few notable things.
Interesting start to the season. We've got a couple big disqualifications that we're definitely, we're going to kind of pick it apart a little bit today and just spew some facts on kind of what transpired with Matt Herren and the big guy from Lake Okeechobee, Scott Martin. We all wanted to see him in action on Lake Okeechobee. Not the case. So we're going to kind of dive into the situation that happened the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, that will be interesting. A lot of, the Scott Martin thing was a bombshell to start that tournament because he had set such a high bar at that open event to start the season last year. I mean, they thought if he could come anywhere close to that, he would have, just wiped out, destroyed the field, wiped out everyone else.
Destroyed Ronnie's fantasy team. Yeah. Destroyed Ronnie's fantasy team.
that and more. Now, Okeechobee, you saw the Okeechobee tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as it turned out, without Scott Martin, right?
Absolutely. And you know what was, and we're really going to kind of dive into that today. Not only obviously what happened on the St. John's River with Bill Lowen, but a flawless beatdown from the prodigy, Brandon Polinick, proving, and we're going to talk about this, turning out that Brandon Polinick is turning into very Denny Brower-like, one of the best closers on the Bassmaster Elite Series when he sniffs that trophy.
Oh man, and when he seems to be when he gets around bigger fish, for some reason, that's when he really revs things up. And I think you could probably give us some insights to that. But just Okeechobee for the second year in a row, not one out on the lake, which is kind of
weird.
The elites anyway. Yeah,
definitely weird. Other thing that we're going to talk about today, Tommy, obviously, we're going to talk about our flights. We're going to talk about first flight and last flight. And here's the interesting thing. There has been movement, weird movement, especially in last flight.
Yeah, big changes. I mean, all in all, though, a great 2 weeks to start the Bassmaster Elite Series, right? 2 really good standalone tournaments back to back. So I think that's something to look forward to. That's something that makes us look forward to the rest of the season. So we'll talk about that and all that kind of stuff. But before we, how about we pay a few bills right now? How about we show some love for our sponsor, Strike King, Z?
Tommy, a big thumbs up to Onaji Livers, otherwise known as Angler from the Hood on Instagram. Guess the color of that red-eye shad, which was baby carp. Won a huge box of fun goods. But to start off, really right now today, Tommy, this might apply to you, might apply to me, a lot of our viewers. If you want to flex on your buddy, if you catch a lot of big bass, maybe you catch big bass in practice, you don't have a big tournament, maybe you're a pond fisherman. If you want to bow up on your buddies, Big Bass USA. Go to StrikeKing.com right now. It is March 15th to April 20th. Win huge prizes by just catching hogs, okay? Measure them on an official measuring board, take a picture, register them, go to StrikeKing.com right now, and we're going to dive into a couple more products throughout the TnZ podcast today. You just need to name the color today of the Z2 that I'm going to show, and go to my Instagram page when I post it, and I'm going to send another box of goodies out, T.
All right. Who won last week again? Give me that name one more time.
Onaji Livers. Onaji Livers.
Congrats.
I'm going to challenge Onaji Livers to go to StrikeKing.com and get into Big Bass USA. And look, here's the great thing. Strike King products, Lose products, Humminbird products. You can win a whole bunch of stuff by bowing up on your bud, all of your buds.
You'll have it in the record. You'll have it in the permanent record. You can flip back to that and say, look, this is what I caught, bud. You know, check me out.
Flexing on your friends.
Yeah,
Flexing
give me a
on
little
your
respect
friends.
once in a while. Wouldn't be a bad idea. Well, shall we move along? Yes, notes and nuggets. All right. Always look forward to this segment. I think I always will, because we cover the waterfront, especially with what's gone on in the past week. We got plenty to talk about. Let's start with where we started the season for the Bassmaster Elite Series, St. John's River.
Yes, and really, if you kind of look at the St. John's River, and not only just the St. John's River, but you can talk about Okeechobee as well. I guess one thing that's really surprising, Tommy, is looking at what Bill Lowen did and what Polinick did, but really what Bill Lowen did at the St. John's. How is this only his first victory in the state of Florida? Like the way that you catch bass in the state of Florida, what he did in this tournament, bunkering into an area, little flipping jig and a swim jig, and really that was it. It was Florida 101. This fish right here, I actually watched this live. After he boated that fish that was hung up, he did a great tutorial on the line that he was using, the braided line on his swim jig. What was interesting was his transition of knowing when to go from flipping jig to swim jig, getting in an area, not running around, not panicking on the last day, and holding that trophy.
Absolutely, and getting his timing perfect. He knew when he was going to catch him. He knew when the tide was going to make available the larger fish. He was ready for him with his best stuff each and every day. And he had to do it 4 days in a row because it was only a 4-ounce victory. I mean, every fish, every portion of fish was essential.
And the other thing, what's funny is we said this off of the TnZ, you kind of felt like in probably 5 to 10 years from now, John Garrett probably thinks this one might have got away from him on that final day a little bit. I really did. I like a lot of the other viewers of Bassmaster Live. It was a flawless performance from Bill Lowen, but boy, John Garrett was set up to win that tournament.
He was on a pile of them, had the only 30-plus, bag of the tournament. And do you think he left a little soon? He sort of lost confidence in that spot. And then, as you pointed out, we were talking about it the other day, he comes out away from his spot there and gives us a wonderful tutorial on how to catch him on a Carolina rig, right?
He did a set, which was great for Bassmaster Live, but he did like a 17-minute tutorial of his Carolina rig. And I'm like, wow, this is good stuff. Get up and start fishing, John.
It's right behind you.
Get up and start fishing.
Right behind you.
Tommy, let me ask you a question about that seawall that he was fishing.
Yeah.
Do you think that seawall has been throttled from the bank the last couple weeks?
I think it's real identifiable. It looked like an abandoned parking lot with a chain link fence around it. And that's what it was. And this little spot, I guess, it looked to be about the size. If you'd cut a school bus in half, it was the size of that, and stuck it up against that wall right there. And how he found it, I don't know, but hats off, man, he had the best thing going, at least for that one single day of any place in the tournament.
Absolutely. And one other thing, his cameraman, Brian Evie, who is a forward-facing sonar junkie, fair to say, my cameraman on Zona show, he said, Zona, this was actually after Championship Sunday, he said, Zona, there were so many on his forward-facing sonar screen. He said it was crawling with giant blobs. Man, I really did. Like every single time you saw Garrett get ready to bow up and set the hook, you're like, oh my gosh, this dude is going to get this done. And obviously, the big one that he broke off, I believe it was right off the rip. Could have ended up being the whole deal. And you look at from there, you really look at what Brandon Palaniuk did on Lake Okeechobee. Yeah. I'm not going to say it's a community hole, but kind of a community hole. The other thing about Palaniuk is we said this, a great closer, but he absolutely beat the brakes off of every angler that was within 5 feet of his boat. Like, I hate to say this, it was a little bit demoralizing to watch GDP, and you looked at Doobie, Will Davis, you know, and there was two things that really stood out with Palaniuk. Not panicking, like Bill Lowen, not panicking, and his, again, like Bill Lowen, his bait transition was unbelievable. To watch from cranking to going to that really big mega bass, I would say it's more of a mid-depth diving crankbait. And then on the final day, getting a little bit finessey. To have that 34-pound day on Bassmaster Live, as fun as it was to watch, and I actually texted Palaniuk after semifinal Saturday. I said, dude, that was as flawless as a day that I've ever seen on Bassmaster Live. And he said, man, I wish you were commentating it. I said, dude, I was driving in my truck, actually commentating it in my truck. Let's go.
I mean, and that's what the two events have in common. These are two of the members of longest standing in the Bassmaster Elite Series. Quite a turnaround from the start of the season last year. A lot of differences in all of that. And just to watch Palaniuk, and you said everyone within 5 feet of him, that was the whole quartet. They were all within 5 feet of him to start out on day number one. It was looking like a one-cast tournament when we started out in that place on the second day. We didn't have them on the first day.
Absolutely. And like I said, man, if you're one of those other anglers, you got to watch a absolute flawless show. Sadly, you were on the receiving end of flawless show. And Tommy, I thought about this. You know, we opened up the first TnZ podcast talking about, last year, and it was very forward-facing, sonar dominated. There's something very intriguing to me about Florida, and I know a lot of the Bassmaster Live viewers, I got to talk to them. I did some seminars last weekend. There's something very diverse with Florida where it balances out in a very intriguing way with forward-facing sonar. Obviously, Palaniuk was using Mega Live 2 a bunch, but it also lends itself to traditional fishing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you really look at St. John's and you look at Okeechobee, there's a good, whenever we go to Florida, there's a really good balance and war of traditional fishing and technology fishing. I think those tournaments end up, by the time you get to the end of Championship Sunday, it really balances out and makes it more unique than a total forward-facing sonar beatdown.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the two tournaments. If you just look at the top of the leaderboard, it was like the old non-forward-facing, and the second event was totally forward-facing. Except Brandon went over and he punched that hyacinth for a while too. He did a few old-school things as well, but he did a lot of different things right there. But below that. Below Bill Lowen, of course, was Shane LaHue, who was kind of showing us a new way to use forward-facing, catching those fry garters, and of course John Garrett. We've already talked about what he was doing. Yeah. And
well, I'll tell you one thing that was amazing about that fry garter situation on the St. Johns River is throughout days 1, 2. Is more like when we got to semifinal Saturday, it's almost like everybody in the top 10 knew about those fry garters.
Yeah, right? it was like a virus. It spread like immediately overnight or something. Yeah, it was all in the water or something.
Great tournaments, 2 great tournaments.
Absolutely, can't do much better than that. So give us the final reckoning on how much did or did not forward-facing sonar ruin the sport of bass fishing over the first 2 events of the year.
It's still ruining it. Okay. It's ruining it as we sit here. Okay. There's kids on the ice outside of my house using forward-facing sonar. Doggone them. Look, we did, in the first podcast, we talked about it, how much of an effect was it going to have this season? And I'll live by this. I really think it'll have less of an effect just because of the schedule, especially after the Classic. And we're going to talk about the Classic at the end of the pod today.
We are.
But I think we're going to go on a pretty darn good shallow run for the Classic and the Bassmaster Elite Series, at least for the next couple months.
All right, time to move on. We'll move on to topic number, I guess, 3 here. The flights. We visit the flights. We're going to go with your top flight. Things have changed. You teased us with that. So let's roll it out here.
As much as they change, Tommy, they stay the same. And I hate to say this, we will call ourselves out where I went wrong. I was picking Dakota Abear, number 4. He was my number 4 angler. He is no longer in my first flight. The Texas angler is no longer in my first flight. We're going to go with, from Wisconsin, Jay Shakurit. Jay Shakurit is honestly like the quietest assassin on the Bassmaster Elite Series for the past 3 years. The dude is an absolute hammer. As much as things change, they stay the same. Looking at what Jay Shakurit did on the St. Johns River, backing it up, now sitting in 7th place in Angler of the Year. Jay Shakurit from there. I'm going to stay consistent, Tommy. I'm going to stay with Jordan Lee. Okay. We're going to leave Jay Shakurit, and we're going to go to Jordan Lee, sitting in 20th place in Angler of the Year. And I don't know, man. There's something real creepy. Jordan Lee is very... It's hard to say this. He's very under the radar last year and this year, and you feel like there could be an implosion to come when we get to the Classic in a few weeks.
Yeah, his bust out moment could be
number two, and I'm actually going to call this angler out. Young Patrick Walters, okay? Young Patrick Walters. And here's why I'm going to call him out, Tommy. Okay. Obviously, an absolute hammer, 15th place in the Angler of the Year standings. But Patrick Walters needs to put up some big titles, okay? Dude wins a lot of tournaments, whether it's on the Bassmasters, other tournament organizations. But you want to see Patrick Walters. I think we have picked him for Angler of the Year, all of us, the past 3 years standing.
At least.
You want to see Patrick Walters either hold an AOY or a Classic title in the next 2 years because he's at the top of his game. And number one, I'm going to stay consistent, and I'm going with Carissa. Hi, Chris.
All right.
Hi, Chris.
Chris and Corey.
Chris and Corey. Looking at Corey in 37th place and Chris in 12th. You feel like Chris could go on yet another Angler of the Year run. And one of the biggest things where I was wrong, I did, Tommy. I picked Corey to win the Lake Okeechobee tournament. I picked Greg Hackney to win the St. Johns River. Both of them did not even cut a check in both of those events. Number 1, Carissa. Hi, Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris. Okay. All right. I'll throw in a couple of mine for my top flight. I'm just going to go with a couple here. Going way out on a limb here. Going with John Garrett. John Garrett being number 1 in Angler of the Year. Oh, they put it my second pick first. That's Will Davis Jr. So those guys, hanging out there, taking on some risk. Maybe it will pay off big. I know I'm so impressed with both of those guys. Have totally been impressed with Will Davis the past 3 years. He's just, I mean, he's intense, and I've never seen him sulk or mope after he misses a man. He is always on go.
Am I okay to call Will Davis out on something?
Sure.
Mike Iaconelli, when he hooks a fish, he turns into a complete spider monkey, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever watched Will Davis when he sets the hook and fights a fish? It is mass chaos. He is one of the most fun anglers to watch when he hooks and lands a fish, because it is total, absolute, dude comes unhinged. Awesome angler to watch fish.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the sky's the limit for this guy. He has no ceiling. I think he can go a long, long way. And of course, John Garrett. I mean, unbelievable. Those 2 events down in Florida. And he won last year in Florida. Starting the season down there was good news for him, who previously never liked coming to Florida, like so many anglers.
Yeah, and one of the things you can tell with John Garrett, obviously cut his teeth fishing the opens. We talked about this. After you fish the opens, boy, you get a good look at a lot of defenses on different waterways throughout the country. And you could tell John Garrett is a growing superstar in the sport of professional bass fishing, hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, he gave us that great Carolina rig, lecture.
He's still doing
That's the mission of the B.A.S.S. Teach people how to catch more fish, and he is on board with that, obviously. So I have no problem listing him in my first flight. So you want to sort of move on to the last flight? Oh yeah, we can move on to the last flight. Let's talk about that.
Hard.
What are the changes there? No, yeah.
This is not good,
No.
and we have this one hurts me, Tommy.
Okay.
The last flight this week hurts me. Big congrats, Scott Canterbury, Joyce Fuentes. You are no longer in my last flight. Number 4. Very confusing on this one. Number 4, Drew Benton. What? Drew Benton, the state of Florida, is in 76th place.
Yeah, that's hard to believe.
In Angler of the Year standings. I honestly cannot explain that at all. And if you really look at, like, I wonder how many fantasy teams Drew Benton destroyed the first two tournaments.
He was the Terminator of fantasy teams, for sure.
And what's funny is I'm not done with Drew Benton today. We're going to talk about him a little bit more later in the show.
Okay.
Number 3 is the most painful one to my heart. It's my best friend. It's Greg Hackney.
Yeah.
Wait, what? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
89th place. He was my pick to win the St. Johns River. I tried to call Hackney, and I know when he's wounded. I know when Greg had big hopes. I made the comment. I really thought with the schedule we had this year, Hackney was a really good pick to make a run in Angler of the Year. He has got to turn things around. Obviously, we're going to have some shallow water events. Look for vengeance from Greg Hackney at the Bassmaster Classic in a few weeks. Number 2, and I tuned this angler up a little bit, Matty Robertson still living in last flight, 93rd place. And Daddy said on stage to Mercer that he's coming home to win the Open on Kentucky Lake. Well, he needs to really kind of focus on the Bassmaster Elite Series because Matty is stringing together potentially 2 very, very rough seasons on the Bassmaster Elite Series. Number one, living in my head right now. Scott Martin. What?
Well, yeah.
Scott Martin.
Yeah.
Obviously the DQ, and like Matt Robertson, here's the scary thing right now with Matt Robertson and Scott Martin. Dude, they're playing with fire. They're playing with fire as far as you start talking about requalification stuff. Man, a rough go in the state of Florida. Obviously, Scott Martin wanted to turn around the 2024 season. Not the case. Scott Martin is my number 1 pick in last flight.
All right. That is your bottom flight. Last flight. I got 2 in my last flight, as I did in the first flight.
Let's go.
All right. Number 2 for me. Let's see. Wait. I don't know which one they're going to. There we got. We got Easton Fothergill. And of course, yeah. I mean, he and the next pick. I will explain the context for these 2 guys. Where they started this season, they had no way to go but down. This guy has been on such a roll for 2 years. I mean, he had a great college career, capped it off by winning the bracket competition, goes to the Classic, finishes in the top 15 in the Classic, goes to the Elites, the TW qualifying, and knocks out not 1 but 2 tournaments. Just unbelievable within that context, within that kind of competition out there. And then he gets in his class, he comes up and it just hasn't happened.
Say it for me,
this
though.
year. It has
Give me
not
his
fired.
name.
What's that?
Give me his name.
Easton
Give me his
Fothergill.
name.
Easton Fothergill.
No, I need it.
Hello, I'm Easton Fothergill. Yes, this is a regal, the most regal of all names. So great expectations.
Yes.
That weigh on somebody, maybe weigh you down enough to where it's kind of hard to get started. Maybe that's part of it. I'm going to say the same thing about my other pick, and that's our Classic champion from last year, Justin Hamner. Everyone expecting giant things for him. Not only did he win the Classic, we went into the last event of the season last year. He was still in the lead for Progressive Angler of the Year. And now he's, just not looking that good. I mean, 46th, okay, at the St. John's, but 96th at Lake Okeechobee. So he was also top 5, wound up top 5 in Angler of the Year. But both of these guys, again, incredible expectations. How do you fulfill them? It weighs on you. Sure, it affects your performance, but to have it happen to that degree is pretty rough. But I expect both of those guys to come back. But they're as far as qualifying for the Classic next year, yeah, they're, as you say, they're playing with fire a little bit with their starts to the year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You really look at, I think Easton Fothergill was probably the biggest surprise from the rookie crop. I mean, where we went wrong, and we'll tackle this, we both picked Easton Fothergill to come out of the gates blazing, and that definitely was not the case. He looked fairly shell-shocked on the stage with Dave Mercer, to say the least.
Yeah, two guys who've gained a whole lot of following over the past couple of years. To see them fall is a little bit disturbing. But they will be back. We have no doubt about that. And we are back to time to give some love to our sponsor, Strike King. Let's do that right now, Z, before we move on.
Tommy, actually, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to switch gears right here, and I'm going to go. One of the biggest questions I get is, Z, train. I want a spinning reel for under $100. If you go to BassProShops.com, lose Speed Spin CRX. One of you is going to win this today. Only $79.95. Very high quality, under $100. Right there. Lose Speed Spin CRX, Tommy. As bad as I want to send this to you, I'm going to send it to one of our viewers today.
It's only fair.
I'm going to send it to one of our viewers.
Love to have it, though. Looks pretty good. Is that a brand new model, or is that sort of the rebirth of another one?
Brand new.
Brand new. Okay.
The biggest thing that we wanted to work on with that reel was a price point of under $100. That's quality. Definitely going to get that out of that reel. One of you are going to get that in the next week from the train.
Very nice. Good stuff from Strike King and you there, Z. So it's time for us. We can move on now. I think we're going on to something we like to call rookie moves. We started out with assessing some certain rookies and how they're going to come out of the gate here in this 2025 season. Let's talk about what we talked about last week versus the reality of what happened.
Well, here's the best way to put it. Tommy, we totally missed. We just missed.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no other way to put it. Obviously, Dakota Hebert, not a rookie, but he's a rookie in principle on the Bassmaster Elite Series, fishing his first year. Dakota is sitting in 60th place. Boy, I totally missed that one right there. Easton Fothergill, we totally missed that as 103rd. But Tucker Smith is the real deal. He is absolutely, obviously, cut his teeth fishing throughout Alabama. Big time hammer. But I got to throw a little bit of love. Evan Kung from Canada, getting it done. Evan Kung, 19th. Bo Browning, how about it? 21st right now.
Those are our top performers, Kung and Browning. Now, what a contrast. We don't have that what is the deal feature this week around, but if we were, this might be the way I'd frame what is the deal. This time last year, after two events down in Texas, and then all through the season, we had all those 9 anglers who had qualified from the EQs, all of them within the top 28 in Angler of the Year points. And now look at where they are right. Well, those numbers to the left, I mean, Kung is 19th, Browning is 21st. Cody Meyer, who's not a true rookie, in 32nd. Then we go down to Paul Marks, 36th. Paul Marks, 33rd. Tucker Smith, 36th. Wagner, 48th. Hebert, 60th. Blake Capps, 94th. Andrew Loberg, 102. And Easton Fothergill. That is a total turnaround from last year. What is the deal?
Yes.
Why were they so dominant last year and not this year? Starting in Florida, that might be part of it, right?
Could be. Who knows? Maybe they just really studied up on a lot of lakes last year.
Well, okay.
Hey, in all honesty, for you look at Evan Kung and Browning, Paul Marks, boy, to come out of the state of Florida, we always hear how hostile Florida is. To be consistent for those rookies to come out of Florida shining like they did, man, a huge hats off to them. And you can definitely tell, one of the things that we talked about, it was really fun to watch Bo Browning, as good as Bo is, with his forward-facing sonar, and which a lot of our rookies obviously are. But Bo cut his teeth fishing, in Arkansas. You got to look at a guy like Tucker Smith fishing in Alabama. you've heard this. Oh, a lot of the rookies, that all they can do is, they're shiners and scopers and blah blah blah. Man, that's not the truth. There's a lot of versatility in last year's rookies and this year's rookies, and we were able to see some of that on camera the first two events.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw McKinney doing both, showing that he was versatile enough at this last tournament. We watched him in right here. It was a great job of recovering from a terrible tournament at St. John's, but we saw him doing, a lot with the forward facing, but a lot otherwise as well. So, putting some of the doubts to rest about the skills these guys have other than electronics.
And you got to see that. You really got to see guys going from forward-facing sonar to flipping read heads. It was good to see, because I think that was a little bit of a myth that all these guys do is stare at their screen. Don't get me wrong. I think they like to stare at the screen.
No, they love it.
The voodoo box. But obviously, you are not going to survive on the Bassmaster Elite Series if you're a one-trick pony. It's not going to happen.
That's right. Well, that's the Rookie Moves segment for today, and it's time for us to move on. We teased this earlier in the day, stuff we don't really want to talk about, but it's it commands the headlines, and we have to talk about two rather high-profile disqualifications that took place at the first two events this year. Two of them, and we've talked about them. But let's start with the one we alluded to earlier at the St. John's. The efforts of Matt Herren. He suffered a disqualification, which was significant.
If you take a look at that right there. There you go.
The official announcement, the B.A.S.S official announcement, Matt Herren had been disqualified and fined after it was determined he violated elite rules concerning the receipt of information to gain a competitive advantage from a non-competitor. A self-reported unintentional violation of off-limits will result in disqualification. Herren's 40th place finish was vacated. That next to last sentence there is important in the context of now. Here and now, because what our anglers have wanted, what everyone is kind of saying is the ideal situation is zero tolerance, and that sort of reflects that, right? Now, page 2. Herren was unable to pass 4 polygraphs after disclosing information that to the effect that he broke the C3 rule. He spoke to a fishing partner of 20 plus years who lives in Florida during official practice time at the St. John's event. Locations were discussed, and they passed after that the 5th polygraph. Now, what does that say to you, Z?
Okay, so we got a lot to unpack on this right now, and the biggest thing is the anglers are who wanted zero tolerance.
Yes.
Okay, there was a meeting back, I believe it was last August. There was a lot of scuttlebutt, obviously, last year on the Bassmaster Elite Series about getting information, and the anglers wanted it cleaned up. And here's the one thing. Look, man, I have called Bass out on certain things, but here's one thing I do know: Bass doesn't want to DQ anglers. They didn't want to DQ.
No.
Kevin Van Dam and Greg Hackney, when Greg Hackney was probably going to win Angler of the Year on Cayuga a few years ago. I'm sure they did not want to disqualify Matt Herren in any way. Here's the real deal on this. He broke a rule, okay? He broke a rule talking to a buddy that lives, I don't know, I heard that his buddy of 20 years lives in Orlando, okay? He compromised himself. And then, hold on, we're going to put up one other thing. His son, Josh Herren, allegedly put this on a forum. I'm going to put this up real quick. Hold on, wait for it.
Okay.
He got DQ'd because we were talking on Tuesday about practicing down south. I wasn't thinking and made a comment. Hopefully this one doesn't get one north in a deep creek like a tournament that my buddy had fished the previous weekend. Okay, that is not why Matt Herren was disqualified. He was disqualified because he admitted he talked areas with his buddy from Orlando. In all reality, Tommy, Matt Herren could have been DQ'd twice, not only for talking to his buddy, but this information right here. Matt Herren definitely was compromised with the no information rule. I feel horrible for Matt. Do I think Matt Herren is a habitual rule viola? I don't. But what the anglers wanted from Bass, they got in this situation with Matt Herren.
Yeah, and as a result, I guess the epilogue to that is Matt decided to go ahead and take his leave from the Bassmaster Elite Series, go somewhere else, and that's. Go ahead.
Man, I like Matt. Okay,
yeah,
I like Matt. I think Matt is a grinder. But Matt, obviously, if you looked at any of Matt's social media, he's not been happy the last few years.
Yeah.
Whether it's technology, whether it's young game, whatever it is. Nobody is tying Matt to the seat of his bass boat and saying, hey, no, you got to fish the Elite Series. Dude, if you are not happy at your job, change it. And Matt did that.
Yeah.
I think one of the best things for Matt would to have a big couple tournaments where he went, has moved on to fish, and wish him only the best. I feel bad for the situation that Matt got in, failing the 4 polygraphs, then passing, but saying to the tournament director, yes, I spoke to a buddy that lives close. Here's what you can take away from the Matt Herren situation if you're a Bassmaster Elite Series angler. During practice, don't call a bud that lives 90 minutes away.
Yeah.
And if the Josh Herren situation, and Josh knows he knows better than that. If you're going to talk to your son, talk about the NFL Combine. Talk about the draft.
It's 28 days. You can make those days.
You could do it.
Yeah.
Imagine, and I thought about this when Matt got disqualified. Terry Scroggins always has barbecues, right? When the Elite Series is on, has old friends over and stuff like that. Imagine if that statement came out of Terry Scroggins' mouth to one of the Bassmaster Elite Series anglers. Man, hey, Hammer, I hope this tournament ain't one up north in the deep creek. Well, the number one, there's not many deep creeks up north of Palatka, so that really limits it down. That is as rule violation actually gets. And I did. I talked to B.A.S.S about this. Matt could have been DQ'd 2 times at the St. John.
Receipt of the information is the infraction. Right. Not even acting on it. That's not part of
not
the
acting.
equation.
And I don't believe Matt did. I don't believe he acted on any of the information, but it was getting it where he probably should have turned himself in on that, I guess.
And I want to echo what you said. We don't like to see anybody leave. Matt has been a part of the culture of the Bassmaster Elite Series for many, many years now. It takes all sort of personalities out there. Some people are natural comedians. Others are motivational speakers. And some people are irascible. We've got friends, all of us in our circle of friends, who are irascible, who get their nose out of joint or not like something and come and give you an earful. That was Matt. That doesn't make him a bad guy.
That is Matt.
It takes all kinds, and we will miss him. Like you, I wish him the best of luck in his new ventures.
Exactly, and from there, you looked at what happened with Scott Martin, where he self-reported that he was talking to an angler or anglers at the shop and turned himself in. And look, we said this at the top of this pod, was we all wanted to see Scott on Lake Okeechobee. But again, let me be very clear. He broke the rule. As many followers and people love to see Scott Martin, Scott broke the rule. And here's one other thing about the no information rule, dude. You and I've talked about this, Tommy. It is not a hard rule to obey. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a hard rule to obey if you're not obeying it. Okay. I know that sounds completely
circular,
ignorant, but it's just not. It's not a situation. And the other thing is, look, man. It was those 2 disqualifications were embarrassing to start the year, but I truly believe, and I hope a lot of our viewers believe this. It's good for the sport. It's good for the long term. And I'm going to tell you, if you're an angler on the Elite Series and you see 2 hammers get DQ'd and maybe you're living in that gray area, you might ought to think about getting out of that gray area right now. You know what's funny is, and we don't cover the opens on this podcast. Maybe we will down the line when things slow up a little bit. A lot of people, well, really, I had a lot of anglers say, well, why didn't that kid get disqualified at the Rayburn event and he only got fined? I've given my opinion to B.A.S., whether they take it or not. I believe the rules in the opens should absolutely mirror the rules that are in the Elite Series. So it's number one, so it's consistent, and the anglers that are in the opens know exactly how to perform under those rules to when they get to the Bassmaster Elite Series. Do I think that the kid that got fined at Rayburn should have got DQ'd? Hell yes. Okay. Absolutely. That was as looking for information of a recent tournament that was won as it gets.
Yeah. The enforcement of the rule has to be comprehensively the same across the board.
I think so.
Okay.
And like I said, the open anglers should, in the opens, and we can go into this in the next podcast, there's actually in the information rule, there's different tiers of what the penalty could be. I think that should absolutely be the same on the opens as it is on the Bassmaster Elite Series, just to remain consistent.
Yeah. And the one thought to wrap it all up, and you've already mentioned this does not mean the end of these guys' career. It shouldn't affect the way that people think about them going forward. We talk about Kevin Van Dam, Greg Hackney, and how about Brandon Polinick, who have all been have served penalties for, yes, that was in 2013 before he went up on the Mississippi River, right before he went up and won St. Lawrence. So, yeah, you can come back from that and come back real fast.
What happened in these first two events is exactly what the anglers wanted. It's exactly what they wanted. They wanted things cleaned up, and they're going to get it. They're going to get it. Do I honestly think that there probably will be more coming throughout the season? Probably. All
right. Well, what do we have coming next? Let's lend an ear to what's in the air here.
Here comes the weigh-in.
Yes. Time to weigh in. Yes, sir.
Yes.
So what are we going to weigh in about today, Z?
Tommy, we're going to weigh in today on the TnZ podcast. We're going to weigh in, and this is actually a good way to really end the podcast today. I know we're going to talk about the Classic. Dude, good guys win, man. Good guys absolutely win. You look at Bill Lowen and what he's done with his career. You look at Brandon Polinick, one of the most asked questions I get doing seminars is, man, I want to become a professional angler, from high school fishermen, from college anglers. If you look at these two guys, and I always use Brandon Polinick as an example, do what that guy does on the water, off the water. These guys are inspirations. They're what's good in professional bass fishing. I mean, he's giving his Mega Bass crankbait away to Will Davis. I literally was watching this and I was like, I don't see my partner in crime, Davey Height, doing that too much throughout his career. No. In all honesty, the good guys finish first, man. And one other shout out I wanted to give was from that first tournament. I'm going to give a hats off to Jason Christie. I believe he won the Femi Hot $1,000 bonus because he was fishing in the exact same creek as Bill Lowen, and when he realized he could not win the tournament and may have compromised Bill Lowen winning the tournament, dividing some fish, he got out of there. For as negative as some things happened in the first two events, man, they were two phenomenal tournaments won by phenomenal human beings.
Good guys for sure. But one thing I will add, and we talked about this yesterday, Brandon he's human too. That last day, day number 3, he's sitting there, had a good day yet again, sitting with Greg DePalma right beside him. They're both throwing to the same spot. DePalma catches a good one, and Brandon goes, "Oh, I guess you're going to be here tomorrow, huh?" I like it coming back down to earth too. That was good.
I did. I actually did see that. There was some very human feelings that came out right there. But I'll tell you, these are two anglers. These are two anglers. Look, I know this sounds crazy, Tommy, but I know a lot of our viewers know this. Fishermen like to talk trash. They like to talk junk about their competitors. These two fishermen, Bill Lowen and Brandon Polinick, I have never heard a negative word on or off the water. And to start the season with both of them holding blue trophies was just awesome to see. Like what I know I don't call the tournaments with you guys anymore, but I really tuned in because they're good dudes. They're dudes that you want to cheer for. It was awesome. They were two phenomenal Elite Series tournaments, Elite Series wins.
Great people and consummate pros, both of them, absolutely, in every way. One quick thing before we get off of what I want to weigh in just like 10 seconds is to mention three guys from the first two events. Kyoya Fujita, 97th in the first event on the St. John's, came back to the top 10. Ditto for Jacob Fouts, 95th. In the St. John's, came in. He was in the top 10 on the final day. And Trey McKinney, 89th. I mean, that, they saw that, things could get out of hand, could catch fire, and they took, they did a good job of turning the things around. So I want to give recognition to those three guys. That was strong. I think that's very strong.
Absolutely. You kind of looked at JT Tompkins and Trey McKinney, obviously having an unbelievable first season on the Bassmaster Elite Series, and then both of them having an absolute train wreck on the St. John's. I think Trey McKinney violated another no wake on the St. John's.
Yeah, River. I think we had.
Listen. It was not, just to clarify, it was not the same railroad trestle that he ran through last year. I know Shane LaHue did it, I think, as well. I think he got a penalty.
Shane LaHue and John Garrett, too, I think, set out for a bit as well. Yeah.
Tommy, have you ever looked at the map of have you ever looked at the no wake on the St. John's River?
It's a crazy quilt. It's not the easiest thing.
It's a matrix.
It really is, yeah.
It's literally it's a matrix that is very, very obviously throughout the entire country. I would say there's more confusing no wakes on the St. John's River. But again, hats off to Trey McKinney righting the ship after a miserable first tournament and getting it done on Lake Okeechobee.
No wakes, slow wakes. What in the world does all that mean? Okay, that's okay. Hey, how about one more word from Strike King, word from our beneficent sponsor here?
Yes. Get ready. Okay. Tommy, very popular. You've been in my boat. Z2.
Oh, yes.
Color extensions. And here's the deal, okay? Not only color extensions, and look at some of those, my friend. Look at some of those. Not only color extensions, we now have not only a baby Z2, a big Z2, but we have a 4-inch Z2, probably one of the most popular baits throughout the country. Now, here's what we're going to do for the winner. And by the way, Onaji livers cannot win twice. So don't go to here's what I'm going to do. All you need to do is go to my Instagram page and name that color when I put the post up. Mark Zona Fishing, okay? The color, get ready, Tommy.
Okay.
Get ready.
Very nice prizes.
IU. The color, the new color extension is IU.
All right.
Go to my Instagram, type in IU. And here's the kicker, Tommy. You need to spell it correctly, unlike you did the last podcast when you go to my Instagram page, okay?
All right.
Let's go.
I'll get it right.
Let's go.
IU. It seems like I could remember that.
So, listen, I am going to give away the reel. I'm going to give away the baby Z2s. And again, for Big Bass USA, go to striking.com.
All right. You're giving away the store here. I love it. One more thing we got to talk about coming up and just days away is the World Championship of Fishing, the Bass Pro Shops Bassmaster Classic, presented by Under Armour. I mean, we got to make some picks here, Z. I think we've been asked to make picks. Are we going to pick two apiece? Oh, we got. Oh, yes, the Majesty of it.
Yes. Tommy, are you okay if I join the crew on the set of Bassmaster Live at this year's
I
Classic?
would be delighted. Would you do that for us?
I would not like it. I would absolutely love it. And here is my number one pick, and there's going to be a theme here, Tommy. There's going to be a theme. Drew Cook.
Okay.
He is definitely going to be my pick, and there's a reason why, friendo. The reason why, if you look at the way the weather has been throughout, say, North Texas to Arkansas to Oklahoma, I don't believe the push has been pushed yet.
Oh.
The shallow move. And I believe this could be a shallow water beatdown. We got to see a lot of shallow water fishing the last time we were down in before the classic there, the one that Hank Cherry won.
Yeah.
And if you look at Lake Ray Roberts, here's the other thing. Obviously, it's been very cold throughout North Texas. The other thing about it is they pulled a lot of water the last week. If some of that water stays up, I don't think this will be a forward-facing sonar-dominated event. From Drew Cook, get ready. He was in my last flight. I'm not done with you. Drew Benton.
Wow.
Picking Drew Benton. Kind of looking at Drew Cook and Drew Benton. I believe that this could be one of those classics. Number one, I think it will be fun to watch because I think there will be a massive amount of bass shallow. And when they get in that zone where they're either locked on beds, guarding fry, or just pulling up, these are two of the best fishermen, not in North Florida. These are two of the best fishermen in the world. Drew Cook, Drew Benton, 2025 Bassmaster Classic co-champions.
All right. I got a couple of picks as well. I'll start with my number 2 pick. Let's see what that is. Let's see whose picture comes up here first because I don't know in what order they went in. I'm saying it's Jay Shakurit. Yes, of course, Jay Shakurit. High finisher last year, a big part of the conversation at the Classic on Grand Lake. And Jay Shakurit, I'm convinced, can catch them absolutely anywhere.
Yes.
He likes the big events. He likes to rise to the occasion. When we get a lot of guys in tight fishing, he just barely got nosed out by 4 ounces already this season. In second place, I think he's poised to go off there at Lake Ray Roberts. So that's going to be Jay Shakurit. Also, my second pick here is going to be someone we have talked about already today, and that is Jordan Lee. Going way out on a limb, aren't I? Mark Zona, Jordan Lee. Yeah, I think, like you, I think he is ready to go off as well. Yet, I changed my pick from Jordan Lee, and I told half the staff members working on things, and not the other half, so it didn't get changed. I'm changing my second choice there to Corey Johnston. That was just a last-second move there. I think now Corey Johnston. It. Now here's the question: do I get the 2-for-1? Do I get the Carissa? Do I get both of them if I pick one? Okay, I'm sitting pretty then. I'll stand on that.
They qualify as one human being. I've already said that.
All right.
And what one thing for a lot of our viewers, and I've always said this, and I guess it goes against the grain from last year with Justin Hamner, but really, if you I've opened up so many classics with you, Tommy, talking about this. Is the classic is such a monster in so many different ways. It really gets the anglers out of their comfort zone. Fair to say, it's an uncomfortable week. Look, a tournament fisherman. I know a bunch of tournament fishermen watch this podcast. Your creature's a habit. You like your own comfort zone. The classic is that's what makes it so beautiful. It takes you out of that comfort zone. And I always say this, the guys that you truly look at for a classic win, to me, they're really guys that have been there before. They understand the mass chaos, the mass confusion of the week. You kind of feel like a veteran of the Elite Series is going to win this classic.
Number of classics fish can make a difference, right? I mean, is that what you're saying? You know,
I think so.
You know what to concoct in the way of a plan B, a plan C, even should things not be exactly as you expect when you show up on day number 1, right?
Yeah, and really, and not only that, it's I do believe that this could be one of those tournaments that especially with the way that the weather's been, that you're going to kind of have to shift on the fly in this tournament and not live by one thing. I do think that this is going to be a very diverse classic. And I'm like everybody else. I'm hoping for high water and heavy line, and an old-fashioned traditional beatdown is what I'm praying for, T.
Yeah, it was the anglers who got beat down the last time we had a classic there at Ray Roberts. It was about 110 degrees. Everyone had their tongue hanging out off the side of the boat. I think this one's going to be a real corker. I think it's going to be good. Going to be good stuff.
Absolutely.
All right.
I totally look forward to hanging with you again. And hey, for anybody in the area, come and see us at the Bassmaster Live set. We're going to be there all weekend, right?
Oh, absolutely. I even hear rumors of big name figures from the sports and entertainment worlds possibly showing.
What?
Just rumors.
What?
Just rumors now,
Ooh,
but something else to, yes,
a tease.
Absolutely. Fort Worth's a great town if you could possibly get there. Great sports town, a great venue out there, and we'll be at the expo outside set up doing our coverage on Bassmaster Live. So we look forward to the Bass Pro Shops Bassmaster Classic presented by Under Armour, the World Championship of Fishing, and we will see you there, and we'll see you next time right here on TnZ.